This is a huge project. This theatre has essentially been abandoned since 2007, and bringing it back to life is really important for the city. Just the planning to get the project started in itself is a huge piece of work. Once we finish this work, I can't wait to welcome people back into this theatre. The main piece of work that we'll be doing for the first 12 months is starting the build of the foundation system. We have to finish the foundation system before we start the structural repairs of the walls. And the upgrade of the walls has two components. The first one is the resilience component, which makes sure that the materials that are there are fit for purpose and will last another 100 years. And the other is the strength component, which makes sure the building can handle the forces that it's put through in a seismic or earthquake event. We've completed most of the hard demolition and preparation work. We've done things like having to remove the stage and auditorium floor so we can build this ramp that allows us to get earth-moving machinery inside the theatre to help us build these new foundations. Welcome to the circle. This is the first floor of the building, and the works we've got to do on this floor are mainly seismic work. So essentially what we've got to do is remove the floor on this level, replace it with a new structural timber floor, and we've got to tie that into each wall. And the reason we have to do that is so that in an earthquake, both walls move together as one, rather than moving independently of each other and essentially ripping the floor apart. And once we've finished rebuilding the diaphragm floor, we've got to come through and redo all the decoration in this area so that you won't be able to see what we've done. We haven't taken you up here yet, but behind these doors is the way up to the gods or the second floor. Welcome to the gods or the grand circle. We're now in the lobby on the second floor, and this hasn't operated in years and years. This actually operated as a bit of a standalone nightclub in the building, sort of from the early 2000s on, but the seating up here hasn't been used since its show days back in the 90s really. So what we've actually done with this old nightclub or lobby area on the second floor is turn it into a processing space where we can process all the fittings and fixtures that we ultimately have to restore and put back in the theatre. So this particular room here is what we call the light locker, and this is where we've put all the light fittings and electrical fittings that we've removed from the buildings, which we're planning to restore before we put them back in. And so this is where they've been packaged up, identified, numbered and stored. So this room here is sort of like an accessory type room. So this is where we've put everything that we have to either recreate, or we've got everything from like toilet doors in here with signage so that we can recreate and get whatever we have to replace as authentic and original as possible. Welcome to the cheap seats, or what in the theatre world is called the gods or the grand circle. And this is the second floor of the building. We've got to do the same thing on this level that we had to do in the circle and the level below, and that's turn the floor into a diaphragm and tie it into the walls. At the top of the gods, of course, we have the infamous projection room. The projection room at St James was really its control centre. This is where everything was controlled from, all the lighting, the fans, everything for the shows was controlled out of this room. The projection equipment is long gone, and unfortunately this whole area up here has to be rebuilt. It's right at the top of the building and it's unreinforced masonry, so unfortunately we've got to essentially remove it all and rebuild it in just a lightweight steel frame construction. As I was speaking about before, the walls have two components to their upgrade. One is a resilience piece of work and the other is a structural upgrade piece of work. And this is what you see here, this patch, is a result of the resilience work. And what happened is when this concrete was made back in the 1920s and 1930s, they used gravel in it which came from the sea, and it was poorly washed. And in reality, it probably wasn't washed at all. So what happens is as moisture goes through the concrete and picks up salts and other contaminants out of the gravel, it then hits the reinforcing steel, which is buried within the concrete. That reinforcing steel then rusts or oxidizes and expands to sort of 4 times the size, and that pops off the cover concrete, which allows more water to get in, and the problem gets worse and worse. So what we've done here is expose the issues, patch them, put a new reinforcing, weld the reinforcing in place, and pour new cover concrete, and then ultimately we'll re-render and replaster this whole facade, so you won't be able to tell what we've done. This is the original Queen Street Tower, and this used to join up to the lobbies in the St James Theatre and was its original entrance. And unfortunately, when we did the concrete condition assessment in this area, the spalling and the concrete cancer was just too bad for us to encapsulate it in a new building, because ultimately there'll be a new building here. And so what we've had to do is do a facade retention scheme, and we'll restore that so that on the face of it on Queen Street, the tower will look original, but it will be built into and incorporated into a new building. So that's some of the work we've got to do here over the next 12 to 24 months at St James, and I look forward to taking you on our journey.